Well, ground acceleration is a characteristic of an earthquake. It's used by engineers to provide a measure of the damage that's likely to occur during an earthquake. And acceleration is just the rate at which the velocity of an object increases. So a car accelerates, or the ground can accelerate. Any object can accelerate. And it's a measure. It's basically expressed as a percentage of the acceleration of an object due to gravity. So if you drop an object, say from a plane to the ground, it's going to accelerate at 9.8 meters per second per second. And if the ground accelerates at 50% of that value, then you have an acceleration of 5. And if it accelerates at 60%, it's 0.6. And we're talking about the ground actually accelerating. I know it's kind of a foreign concept, but seismic waves disturb the ground and they cause it to move and to accelerate as the waves pass through. And you can imagine that the higher the acceleration, the more damage that a structure might feel. But, big earthquakes typically produce higher accelerations close within the epicentral area. I think the earthquake in Chile produced local accelerations, that were larger than 0.5. And you can get damage from ground accelerations of 0.2 or so. If you get, here's a good example of what acceleration really means. If you have an acceleration of 1, that means that an object is basically, or the ground is accelerating it faster than an object would accelerate as it falls to the earth. And that means that the ground can move so fast that objects can be suspended in air.
That would be a sight. Yeah.
It would be. Buildings don't typically stand up under that. Fortunately, we don't get accelerations typically quite that high during earthquakes. But I saw in a picture of a train in Chile in 1960. It was a big cast iron locomotive, a huge honking thing, and the picture was very because the train was standing next to the tracks. And the tracks were just to the side. And what had happened was the ground had moved so fast that the train became suspended in air and then came down again next to the tracks on which it was sitting before the earthquake.
Wow.
So it experienced, an acceleration of 1.
Incredible. Are there any conditions that might make earthquakes more likely?
Well, the only, is definitely reservoir construction can result in small earthquakes. The loading of the water on the land in a reservoir, injection of fluids into the Earth's crust have caused earthquakes. I think some.
Why is it that the construction of a reservoir might cause?
It loads the crust. Actually, the weight of the water is such that it actually places a load on the crust, which can cause slippage along faults. Those earthquakes aren't usually huge, but there are many cases where reservoir fillings have resulted in felt earthquakes. And as far as fluids go, injecting fluids under pressure into, say, depleted hydrocarbon reservoirs has definitely caused earthquakes. There have been swarms of earthquakes associated with oil and gas exploration in the Alberta foothills, for example. And fluids, are an important factor in triggering earthquakes because they reduce the strength of the rocks. Fluids under pressure actually lower the strength of the rocks along a discontinuity like a fault.